When you look at a truly incredible piece of clothing, like maybe it's a meticulously hand-beaded gown behind glass in a museum, or, a perfectly structured, tailored suit, you're usually just completely dazzled by the finished product.
Right, yeah, you just see the surface.
Exactly. You see the sparkle of the beads, you see the sharp silhouette, but what you don't see are like the frantic charcoal sketches or the obsessive measurements or, the bleeding fingers of the artisan who was agonizing over every single hidden stitch.
Yeah, we experience the sheer beauty of the object, but we're completely blind to its underlying mechanics.
Yeah.
We miss the hidden architecture and the intense physical labor that actually makes all that beauty possible.
But today, we are getting the ultimate behind-the-scenes look. We're doing a deep dive into what is essentially the oldest, most detailed spec sheet for the most important outfit in human history.
It really is a spec sheet.
Yeah,
No,
it totally is. We're unpacking chapter 28 of the book of Exodus, which is also known in Hebrew as Shemot. And we're looking at this ancient text through the lens of a legendary medieval scholar named Rashi,
right.
because he painstakingly breaks down the exact construction of the sacred garments worn by the high priest, the Kohen Gadol, whose name was Aaron.
And, to really understand what we're looking at here, we have to define what the Kohen Gadol actually did.
Yeah, lay that out for us.
Because this wasn't just a community leader or like a public speaker. The high priest was the literal and spiritual bridge between the human and the divine.
Right.
His daily reality involved working in the temple, handling these ancient rituals, the incense, the sacred offerings. It was an environment of extreme sensory overload
Totally.
and profound spiritual weight. So the uniform he wore for this work had to reflect the magnitude of that exact role.
And for you listening right now, if you are someone who is captivated by art or fashion or, if you just love the tactile feeling of working with your hands and building things from scratch, this entire text is going to blow your mind.
Oh, absolutely.
It is entirely about how things are made. The rich textures, the rare colors, and the heavy, profound emotional meaning woven into every single thread. So, okay, let's unpack this. What exactly is the baseline for this outfit?
Well, the text makes its intention clear right out of the gate. These garments are not practical clothes. They aren't meant to keep a person warm or shield them from the sun.
Right, it's not a raincoat.
Exactly. The text explicitly dictates they are made for honor and glory. So if you were to paint the visual backdrop for this deep dive, you have to picture a master artisan's workshop overlapping with an ancient echoing temple.
That is such a cool image.
Right. The creation of this uniform is treated with the exact same exactitude, danger, and reverence as constructing the massive walls of the sacred temple itself.
Which, that naturally brings us to the raw materials. Because you can't just run down to a local fabric store to pick this stuff up.
Definitely not.
The required materials are intensely vivid and incredibly difficult to source. We're talking about specific shades of blue wool, purple wool, crimson wool, and twisted fine linen.
And the dyes alone tell a story of immense effort. In the ancient world, these weren't just pretty colors. They were massive status symbols.
Because of how hard they were to extract. Right?
Yes, exactly. The blue dye, known as teshulit, is traditionally understood to come from a very rare marine snail.
A snail. That's wild.
Yeah, a snail. And the purple, argaman, was the color of kings, painstakingly extracted drop by drop from sea mollusks.
Drop by drop.
Literally. And the crimson, talat shani, was derived from a specific type of shield bug or worm. So, the weavers are starting with materials that are already worth their weight in gold before a single stitch is even made.
Speaking of gold, that is the other primary material on this list. But the text doesn't say, they didn't just make gold jewelry to wear over the fabric.
No, they didn't.
They are commanded to weave solid gold directly into the wool and linen. And I have to pause here because from a purely physical crafting perspective, how do you even do that?
It's a great question.
Like, you don't just toss a gold nugget into a spinning wheel. If I try to run a metal wire through my standard sewing machine, it immediately snaps or jams the whole thing.
Right. And this is where Rashi's commentary gets incredibly granular about the physical reality of the labor. The artisans didn't just melt the gold down and dip the finished thread into a vat of liquid metal.
So what did they do?
They had to physically pound the solid gold.
Yeah.
Just imagine the deafening sound in that ancient workshop. The heavy rhythmic strike of metal hammers beating solid chunks of gold down into paper-thin, incredibly fragile plates.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then, using specialized tools, they meticulously sliced those golden plates into tiny hair-thin cords.
So they're essentially manufacturing their own flexible gold wire by hand.
Hand-forged gold thread, and then the process becomes an exercise in staggering mathematical precision. They took one single thread of that beaten gold wire, and they spun it together with 6 threads of the blue wool.
Wow.
That creates a single 7-strand thread. But they didn't stop there. They repeated that exact same process with the purple wool. 1 gold, 6 purple,
Right.
then again with the crimson wool, and finally they did the exact same thing with the fine linen.
Meaning you have 4 distinct bundles of thread, and each bundle has 6 soft threads of a specific material wrapped around one hard golden core.
Exactly.
And then the master weaver takes all 4 of those bundles, the blue, purple, crimson, and linen, and twists them all together.
Resulting in one massive 28-strand thread.
That is just wild to visualize. This isn't just a shiny shirt. It's heavily engineered. Like, it reminds me of modern, high-tech Kevlar fabrics that police or the military might wear, you know?
Yeah, that's a great comparison.
Where you have these incredibly dense, overlapping fibers designed to stop a bullet. But this is made completely by hand, without a single machine, incorporating solid metal. The sheer physical weight of that fabric resting on your shoulders must have been unbelievable.
The physical weight is immense, sure. But what's fascinating here is how the spiritual weight is what the text really zeroes in on.
How so?
Well, the instructions don't just say, go find the most talented seamstresses in the land. The text specifically calls for wise-hearted people, individuals whom God has filled with the spirit of wisdom.
I really love that phrase, wise-hearted, because it implies that, like, technical skill with a loom or a hammer just isn't enough on its own.
Right, the craftsmanship itself is treated as a deeply spiritual act. The artisans are channeling divine wisdom through their fingertips, manifesting it into the physical world. Their intent matters just as much as their technique.
That is beautiful.
And the first major garment they construct using this heavy 28-strand golden thread is the base layer of the entire uniform. It's called the ephod.
Now, Rashi has a very unexpected description of how the ephod actually fit on the high priest's body. Because I always pictured ancient priests wearing, like, loose tunics or flowing ponchos, you know?
Yeah, forget the poncho image completely.
Yeah.
Rashi compares the ephod to a specific type of riding apron worn by princesses or nobility when they rode on horseback.
Okay.
Except crucially, the high priest wore it backward.
That is such a striking visual, a backward apron made of bulletproof gold and wool.
Picture a heavy, vibrantly woven panel covering the high priest's back, extending all the way down to his ankles.
Right.
At the top edge of this back panel, there is a thick woven belt that wraps around from his back to the front of his waist, tying the whole thing securely to his torso.
Got it.
Then, extending up from that belt, running up his back and hooking over his collarbones, are 2 heavy-duty shoulder straps.
It sounds a lot like a modern heavy-duty hiking backpack harness, you know, designed to distribute massive amounts of weight.
It really does.
And on top of those 2 shoulder straps, resting directly on his collarbones, are 2 massive precious stones called Shoam stones. And each of those stones is engraved with the names of 6 of the tribes of Israel.
Yes. And the text explicitly states the purpose of those stones. Aaron must carry their names before the Lord upon his 2 shoulders as a remembrance.
Oh, well.
He is literally, physically carrying the weight of the entire nation on his shoulders every single time he goes to work.
Which perfectly sets up the piece of the outfit that attaches to the front of that harness. Once the ephod is tied securely around the waist, we move to what has to be the most visually stunning, glittering part of the whole uniform. The choshen, the breastplate of judgment.
Visually stunning and mathematically rigid. The choshen was a square piece of fabric measured perfectly at 1 span by 1 span.
And a span is like the ancient measurement from the tip of your thumb to the tip of your pinky when your hand is stretched wide open, right?
Exactly. And the artisans were commanded to double the fabric over, creating a hidden pocket or a fold inside the square.
And the front of this fabric square is just covered in a grid of gemstones. 4 rows of precious stones, 3 stones in each row. So 12 massive gems in total.
Right.
And this is where the sensory details really pop for me. We aren't just talking about shiny glass. Rashi and the ancient texts list stones like the odom, which is a brilliant flashing red ruby,
Beautiful.
the pidah, a pale green or yellow chrysolite, the baraketh, a deep, vibrant emerald. You have the deep ocean blue of a sapphire, and the blinding clarity of a yahalom, a diamond.
It's incredible.
Each one is a totally different color, a different texture, catching the light in the temple in its own unique way.
And setting those stones was an art form in itself. Each of the 12 gems was set in its own custom-crafted gold setting, woven directly into the golden fabric of the breastplate.
Oh, man.
And just like the stones on his shoulders, every single one of these 12 gems was deeply engraved.
They were engraved like the engravings of a seal, like a royal signet ring used to stamp hot wax. Each stone bore the name of one of the 12 tribes of Israel in the exact chronological order they were born.
Yeah.
And Rashi notes that there were exactly 25 letters engraved on each half of the breastplate.
Stop and think about the physical difficulty of that task for a moment. You have an ancient engraver tasked with carving precise, flowing Hebrew letters into some of the hardest substances on planet Earth.
Yeah.
Diamonds, sapphires,
That's
emeralds.
insane.
They didn't have modern lasers or diamond-tipped rotary tools. They had to carve these names so deeply and permanently that they could never be worn away, all without shattering the priceless stones.
The level of anxiety that artisan must have felt with every strike of the tool is just unimaginable.
Really?
But here's where it gets really interesting to me.